Let's start with the prayers. Om Sahana Bhavato Sahanau Bhunakto Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Our text for study is Panchadasi, chapter 3, Panchakosha Viveka Prakaranam, consisting of 43 verses. We have done 5 verses so far. Today we'll start with the 6th verse. This is a very simple chapter. Very structured, very simple, easy to understand. It follows Taittiriya Upanishad methodology of revealing the self. When we are entering the spiritual study, we want to know our true nature, who am I, and what the world is, and who created this world. These are the 3 fundamental questions we all enter with when we enter the spiritual study of the Veda. This study has not got much relevance when we are dealing with the transactional world. It will have an impact in an indirect way, but for day-to-day transactions, this search, this quest of knowledge of the truth will not have a direct impact. We should be very clear. You should not say that I am a Vedantic student and how come I am having sorrow in life. So what the methodology which you are following here is to know the real truth of myself. Who am I? That question will be answered. Different texts are there which reveal the truth, and in Panchadasi, in each and every chapter, Swami Vidyaranya makes an attempt to give us various methodologies to reach the same truth of Atma. The chapter number 10, which we did before this, talked about Swayam Jyoti, that I am the light of consciousness and I exist by myself. Without the body, without the mind, and without the world. This particular point you should always remember whenever we are doing any type of study of the Veda. Whether we do the Bhagavad Gita, whether we do the Upanishad, any Upanishad, this fundamental point we should always remember. Because if the goal is not clear, you will not be able to appreciate what the revelation process is. So in this, coming back to this chapter, we have done 5 verses, and the essence of what we have learned so far is, when I look at myself, I should think of myself as the pure consciousness. And then I am putting on 5 dresses. The grossest dress which I wear is called as the annamaya kosha, the outermost layer. And the innermost layer or the innermost content is called as Atma. So Atma, the light, the pure entity or the reality is covered. Now we are trying to remove one by one the coverings. We have already seen this Atma is different than the annamaya kosha, which is the food sheath. The food sheath is a temporary sheath which comes to the Atma, the pure consciousness, when the body is born. Otherwise, Atma remains as it is in its divine nature. Always that is our nature. We are not one with this body at all. Then the second kosha, the second dress, is the pranamaya kosha. We have seen this also. And we have said this prana, the air we breathe, maintains the body. The outer shell is maintained by the air we breathe, the physiological functions of maintenance of the body. Is by this prana. The body is alive because of the air we breathe. This is the structure of the world. This is how God made this world. Then inner to that is the mind. And that is what we are going to study. We are going to start the study with the nature of the mind. Verse 6.
Ahantam mamatam dehe, ahantam mamatam dehe, gehadau karoti yaha, gehadau karoti yaha, kamadhyavasthaya branto, kamadhyavasthaya branto, nasavatma manomaya, nasavatma manomaya.
What is the mind? Mind is vrittimaya. Vrittimaya prachuraha. Prachura means full of vrittis. The mind does not exist when there are no thoughts. So therefore, the mind has got two conditions: manifest, unmanifest. When do we have the manifest condition? When we are in the waking state and in the dream state. When is it in unmanifest condition? In the sleep state. So we must be able to discriminate our nature as the mind in the waking state and in the deep sleep state. In the waking state, I have the nature, the notion of I am. This is my body. This is my house. Now this, whenever I utter these sentences, you must know it is the mind which has got identification with the body. It is uttering the words and it is owning up these things in the world. And the mind has desires. I want this, I want that, I want to get married, I want to buy a house, I want to go and work. So many desires we have. And then whenever we have a desire, we act in the world, and the response from the world comes into our mind as pleasure or pain. And therefore, the nature of the mind is fickle. It is changing. It is never steady. So you should note this particular point, that it is changing, fickle, unsteady. Whereas the intellect, the next study of vijnanamaya kosha, this will be changeless. The changeless mind is the vijnanamaya kosha. The changing mind is the manomaya kosha. Why mind is not Atma? Mind gives rise to ideas of my mind with reference to one's body. Mind has desires, it is changing, it is unstable. Manomaya. Mayaha here means prachura. I told you the meaning of prachura means full of. Chinmaya, full of consciousness. So the mind is full of consciousness. It is got the consciousness which is borrowed from the Chit principle. And then it creates a thought of I in this body. This I is not in another body. You see, you must see the difference. In this body, there is a reflection of consciousness and it is taken as I. Any technical term in Sanskrit is called as Paribhashika Shabda. So mind is a Paribhashika Shabda. It has got a technical function. It is a technical name. Like vijnanamaya kosha. Vijnanam is intellect. It is also a Paribhashika Shabda. Ahamatam mamatam dehe gehadau cha karoti yaha. This is the text, this is the verse. I'm giving you the word meaning of the verse now. Ahamatam mamatam. Ahamta means I in the body. Mamata means mind with reference to the things surrounding the body. My body, once we say, then whatever is related to the body, I say is also mine. My house, my car, my books, my guru, all that is mine, mine, mine. How does this come about? Because of a thought. We must differentiate the mind when it is in the waking state. Only we have this I and mind. How do I differentiate in the sleep state? In the sleep state, I also exist, but without the mind. I and mine are delusion. Rama Gita clearly says that this I and mine is a delusion. It is an adhyasa. It is a superimposition. For those who are studying the Adhyasa Bhashyam on Saturday, will be able to relate this very easily. So this I and mine is only a reflection. It comes to me in the waking state. It disappears in the sleep state. Vivek Chodamani says that this mind is itself ignorance. Avidya. Only last week on last Saturday we covered in the Saturday class, avidya is equal to adhyasa. Ignorance itself is superimposition. And here what we are saying, ignorance itself is the mind. There is no mind without ignorance. Because the mind notion, as soon as I and mine arises, it is arising from its cause. The cause is the sleep state, as seen in the Mandukya Upanishad. Mandukya Upanishad clearly says the cause of this I and mine in the waking state is the sleep state. And this is only an effect. And this is a conditioned existence. Very important word. The waking state existence is a conditioned existence. The free existence, the unconditioned existence, is beyond the sleep state. Who am I? I am not the conditioned self or the existence in the waking state with the mind, but I am the unconditioned existence without the mind. So Vivek Chudamani says, when this mind is destroyed, then I will realize my real nature. Destroyed means what? It means falsified. When I remove the idea, the notion of I without the mind, then I will realize I am the nature of supreme consciousness, pure consciousness. So together now the consciousness is mixed with three things. First is the mind. The second is the body. And the third is the world. So world I can easily remove. It's not me. Then we are coming to the closer, body. Then we come still closer, mind. So mind is equal to avidya, which is I, and mine is a delusion. It is a bondage of samsara. Whenever we feel sorrowful, it's because of this notion of I and mine. When mind ends, the bondage goes. Kamada avasthaya brantaha. The bondage begins as soon as the body wakes up and desires start floating. I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to get that. All this is delusion. It is not the pure self. It is the conditioned self. So Shad Ripuhu state. Shad Ripuhu means 6 states of the mind. And what are those states? Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Madha, Matsarya. Kama means desire. Krodha means anger. Whenever the mind is in anger, remember you are deluded. Whenever the mind has got desires, remember you are deluded. Similarly, greed. When the greed is there in the mind, I want more and more, more and more, more and more. Remember, you are in delusion. Moha is anyway delusion. Madha means pride. Sometimes we feel I'm very important in the society. I'm the president of so-and-so. I'm a general manager. I'm a doctor. I'm a lawyer. All that is nothing but pride. And pride is nothing but delusion. These are all the different ways of the functioning of the mind. These are 6 very important ways in which the mind functions. It is given in the scriptures. Matsarya. Matsarya means jealousy. And they are the 6 enemies. Bhagavad Gita calls this as the 6 direct enemies of all of us. Whenever the mind has got these qualities, remember that you have to fight this enemy to get rid of this enemy and realize your true nature. All emotions are only thoughts. They exist for some time and they disappear. All emotions. So don't get carried away by your emotions. Many of us, we do not realize this fact. This is one of the most important features of the spiritual study. Even if you don't realize the Atma, don't worry. If you have realized your mind is separate from you, that is a giant step in the path of realization. And it will give you tremendous benefits in life. Anytime you are emotionally disturbed, immediately it will strike you, oh, this is not me. And many people have called me after the study of these scriptures and said, I may not have realized Atma, but I know that I am not the mind. And I tell them that is a huge success. So, and this is self, this mind is not me, has to be realized by each one of us. I cannot come inside your mind and tell you that I am not this. You have to segregate the pure consciousness, the Sakshi, the witness of the mind, and separate it from the mind. But when adhyasa happens, adhyasa means superimposition, error. When error happens, I take the kama to be my nature, the desire. I think that desire is me. I think the anger is me. I think that jealousy is me. And then I keep on wondering, why am I jealous? Oh, is this my nature? Then I get disturbed. When desire comes, I, the self, the pure consciousness is with adhyasa. And it becomes the desirer, kami, krodhi, ragi. Ragi means attached person, deluded, confused. Na asau atma, na manomaya. Na asau atma. This mind is not me. Why not me? Because in greed, I don't see anger. In anger, I don't see jealousy. In jealousy, I don't see greed. So all these are only changing states of thoughts. Bhagavad Gita in the 12th chapter clearly says, Advesha sarvabhutanam maitra karuna evacha nirmamo nirahankaraha samadukha sukshami. Who is a jnani? Who is a bad? Who is a person? Who is a wise person? A wise person is one who is free from the attachment to this ego I. And he is balanced in pleasure and pain, not carried away, not carried away by his anger, not carried away by his desires. We all have desires, but don't get carried away. Yes, I have desire. I try to fulfill it. If I can, if I don't bother about it. I move on. In all minds, emotions, this I is constant. That I is where I have to focus, and then I have to continue the search of that I. It is the same I which was 10 years ago saying, I am going to study this. I studied medicine, I became a doctor. It is the same I which says, now I am a doctor, I'm very happy. The I has not changed, right from childhood, youth, adult, old age. It is not changed. Same I is living in this body. But the thoughts are changing. The thoughts in the childhood is different. The thoughts in the old age is different. Therefore, the identification with the body and the world has changed, but I has remained constant. That I is kshetrajna. It is not kshetram. Those who have done the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13. I can't have karuna and krodha together. So obviously, I am not this emotions. I am not the thoughts. I am not the bhavas, the vikaras. They are all constantly changing. They are not my swarupa, my nature. Who am I? I am the continuous, changeless self, the consciousness, the pure awareness. Without the thoughts, whatever is their nature, that is my nature. It's not that we have to go to sleep and realize our nature as pure consciousness. Even during waking time, when the mind is quiet, realize your true state as the pure I consciousness. This mind has got a reflection of consciousness, and then it looks sentient. We get a feeling of thought. This thought is in me. This idea is in my mind. That idea which is there in the mind is only a reflection of that consciousness. Consciousness is the knowledge. It is the pure knowledge. What I get in the mind is a reflected knowledge. Antakale cha mameva swaran muktva kalevaram yap prayati samat bhavam yati nasyatra samshayaha. Bhagavad Gita, 8th chapter. Whoever leaves the body and goes remembering me alone, here me means what? That consciousness which is free of the thoughts and which is also called as Om. Whenever we utter Om, it is the name of this pure consciousness. It is the name of Bhagavan. It is the name of, it's a divine name. Om is a divine name of not only Bhagavan, it is that Bhagavan who is in this body, who is saying I. Because of that pure consciousness, this body, this mind, this world is seen. So therefore, Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, remember me, I am there with you as Om. Remember, chant Om whenever you're disturbed, even during your normal interactional life, immediately chant Om and see the difference it makes to you. Because you're all students of the Bhagavad Gita, Panchadasi, Upanishads, you will find tremendous benefit out of this chanting. Immediately you will come back to balance. You'll come back to the state of equilibrium, where your mind settles down, because that is the state of your substratum, the pure I. So manovrittis have vikaras, changes. I remain their changeless substratum. Here I means the consciousness. As the man, as the mind, so is the man. The altitude one goes up to depends on the attitude by which one lives in life. If I know I am the consciousness eternally available, my altitude in life will be very, very high. If I think I'm a limited person, limited to this mind, my attitude is wrong. I will not be, my altitude also will be very low. Thoughts are good, bad, right, wrong, but the Jivatma continues without any changes till the freedom is achieved. Moksha means what? Free of this mind, the tormenting mind. The body exists for a few years, but the mind continues in every body till it becomes free and realizes its own nature as the pure Atma. Body is not me because it is jadam. It is only an outer residence. It's like the house we all live in. Can I say the house is me? No, I never say house is me. I say house is mine. Never say house is me, because it is just a house. It's just a residence. Similarly, for the consciousness, for the Atma, the body is a residence. The light, pure light of consciousness is always there as we experience in our sleep state. As we can experience in our waking also, if we understand what is this consciousness. Because we are always there. Jivatma is not me. Jivatma is the karta, is the bhokta, We'll see that in the next verse. Karta, what is that karta? Karta means the doer. Paramatma is me beyond karma phalam. Jnani is the one who sees the mind as false. He negates the mind. He falsifies the mind. See, Jnani also has a mind. Suppose I do this study of Panchadasi, and after this 47 verses, I realize, oh, I am not this body, mind, pranas, the enjoyer, the doer. I am not any of this. But will I get rid of this mind totally? No. The mind will continue till the body is there. Only thing what you do is you say this is a false entity. It is a chaya. And I and mine are only role play. Why do we call it role play? Because whenever this body is seen, it is always in relation to the world. I'm surrounded by my relatives, my children, by my friends, by the society. So I and mind comes only temporarily as long as my mind is awake. And in this state, I play a role. Mind thinks body to be itself, and that is the cause of problem. That which has thoughts of I and mine is Manomaya Kosha. It is not me, it is only a Kosha. It is a dress, a third dress which I am wearing. What is the first dress? Annamaya Kosha. What is the second dress? Pranamaya Kosha. What is the third dress? Manomaya Kosha. And it has the expression of ignorance of the self. There is no mind which has the knowledge that I am the self. That if it has, it becomes a jnani. It becomes free from mind itself. So whenever we experience a mind as disturbing to us, it is always an ignorant mind. All thoughts are in identification mode. It is a seat. Whenever somebody wants to know what is this mind, it is the seat of emotions, which are basically bhrantaha, delusion. And the mind takes this anger, desire as itself. And then it says, I am a desirer. I am an angry person. The Manomaya Kosha becomes a kami, a krodhi. Krodhi means an angry person, compassionate person. These are good qualities. The good qualities also are delusions. The bad qualities also are delusions of the mind. I am the desirer, angry, changing person, identifying with my thoughts in the mind, which are temporary states. I am not this. Atma is the changeless, pure awareness. It is not the thoughts. It is separate from the thoughts. Thoughts are jadam, inert. But I illumine the thoughts. I am that pure light. So Manomaya is a vikari, anitya vikari. Anitya means it is not permanent. It is deluded, it is unstable, changing, therefore it is not Atma. This is how we should understand the third dress, the mind, Manomaya Kosha. So I hope now many people get confused between mind and intellect. Now we will see what is the intellect. Once we know what the intellect is, you will never be confused in future, because they are two different functions of one instrument. And then here Vidyaranya will say why this intellect is not me. Like the mind, the intellect also is a chitchaya. It is a temporary state. It is a shadow of the pure consciousness. Like when the sunlight is there, a shadow of mind falls on the ground. Do I take the shadow as myself? No. I am the body. I take the shadow as just an experience. That's all. So similarly, with reference to consciousness, which is pure by nature, our entire experience of the body, mind, and the world should be taken as a chaya. In Kathopanishad, this is very beautifully explained. This entire body mind experience means my awareness of this body, of this mind, and of this world is like the shadow. Therefore, like a shadow, eliminate and be free. Intellect has a reflection of pure consciousness. In this verse, we are going to see how vijnanamaya kosha is not the self. Let's just learn.
लीना सुप्तौ वपुर्बोधे लीना सुप्तौ वपुर्बोधे व्याप्नुयादानखाग्रग व्याप्नुयादानखाग्रग चिच्चायोपेतधीर्नात्मा चिच्चायोपेतधीर्नात्मा विज्ञानमय शब्दभाक् विज्ञानमय शब्दभाक्.
Why is this intellect? First of all, let us understand what is this intellect. Intellect is a reflection of pure consciousness. As I've said before, pure consciousness means, pure means what? Without the perception of the body, without the perception of the mind, without the perception of the world. Whatever it is, that is what is called as pure consciousness. I'm sure all of you can appreciate this fact, because that is what we are. That is my real nature. And this is known only from the scriptures. I can know it, the mind can try to know this thing, but it can know it when it can hold the scriptures as the truth. And this consciousness pervades the body to the tip of the finger in the waking state. I am conscious in the waking state of the tip of my finger. I touch the tip of the finger, I can feel it. When I feel it, what does it mean? I touch my left hand with my right hand. I can feel the right hand. I can feel the left hand. That feeling comes because of the sense of touch. The sense of touch is because of the air element. The color of the body is because of the fire element. These are the 5 elements which constitute this body. Now, this body disappears in deep sleep. Disappears means what? It is not visible. It exists, but it is not visible to what? It is not visible to the mind, because the mind has gone to sleep. Body is there, but the mind is not functioning. When I see somebody sleeping, the body I can see sleeping, but I cannot see his mind sleeping. His mind has gone to sleep because mind is invisible. And this is what is called as the intellectual sheath. It is not the self because it is changeable. So what we have seen is it pervades the whole body up to the tip, it disappears, and therefore, because it disappears, it is not the self. What is our experience of the self? I am there all the time. That is my real self. I am there in waking, I'm there in dream, I'm there in sleep. What is that I? That I is Atma. The intellect, which has got the reflection of consciousness, borrowed from that pure consciousness, that disappears. Chit chaya upetyadhi vijnanamaya shabdabhag. This is straight from the verse. Chit chaya means shadow, reflection of consciousness. Chit pratibimba, chidabhasa. These are all different words of the same chaya. The same shadow is also called as chit pratibimba, reflection of chit. Chit means pure consciousness. Nishchayatmika dhi. Nishchayatmika dhi means it is of the nature of firm decision-making ability. Firm, it is changeless. Whereas mind is what? Continuously changing. Chanchalatvat manaha. Nishchayatmika dhi. These are the two words you should remember if you want to differentiate mind and intellect. This comes from the Tattvabodha. Upeta means endowed with reflection of consciousness. Chanchalam hi mana Krishna pramathi balavatridham tasyaham nigraham manye vayoriva sudushkaram. A very beautiful verse from the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where Lord Krishna, where Arjuna says, Chanchalam hi mana Krishna. My mind, oh Krishna, my mind is restless, turbulent, strong, unyielding. 4 things. All of you can say the same thing about your minds. Always restless. It is jumping one topic to another topic. Suddenly it talks of thinks of the office, immediately thinks of my daughter, then suddenly it thinks of the car I have to go and repair, and then suddenly it will think about the food I have to eat. All our minds are like this, turbulent, like the air which is turbulent in a storm. The mind also becomes suddenly turbulent. I become angry. I become very, very emotionally driven. It is the turbulence in the mind. Very strong. Suppose it gets attached to something, immediately it will keep on saying the same thing again and again. I want this, I want this, I want this. That I want this will never stop. That is why we say it is very strong and unyielding. It never gives away anything which it has got hold of. Like the sun has reflection in the water, the intellect gets the reflection of consciousness. And then we feel, I am a conscious being. See, our nature is not with the mind. But with the mind, I get a feeling, I am there, I am existing. And this does not require anything except the mind or the intellect. Consciousness is all pervasive, but then it gets reflected in the intellect. This consciousness this is all which we learn from the scriptures. Consciousness is there everywhere. All pervading means what? It is there in the distant star. It is there in this country where I live, it is there in this house, it is there in this body, it is there in this mind, it is me. There is no distance between me and consciousness. Apparent presence of you in the mirror is false. Similarly, a reflection of consciousness in the intellect is false. Like, suppose I see in the water two trees, the reflection of two trees. I'm cycling, I'm going around, or I'm walking. I see the reflection of the tree in the pond or in the river. So in the water, when I see the reflection, it is not real. It is pratibimba. So similarly, the intellect, when it is awake, you must remember it is a false self, apparent self. The I thought is apparent in the waking buddhi, but the pure I is unvoiced, non-verbalized. It can never say I. In the sleep state, can you say I? No. Because the mind is not there, but you exist. The I thought can observe. I see, I hear, I talk. I thought has the presence of consciousness. It is not true, it is an apparent nature. Yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasa saha anandam brahmano vidwan na bibeti kadachaneti tasesha eva sharira atma. This speech cannot touch that Atma. My mind cannot conceptualize Atma. That is the Atma which I am trying to search for. What is the difference between Manomaya Kosha and Vijnanamaya Kosha? Remember, try to understand these two things very, very clearly. Because after 25 years of study, also people ask me the same question. What is mind? What is intellect? Vijnanamaya Kosha is a conduit, it is a pipeline, it distributes the consciousness to the mind and to the body. It is a conduit, it is a pipeline. Annamaya, pranamaya has no consciousness, they are jadam. It is this intellect, Vijnanamaya Kosha, which is supplying the consciousness to the body and to the prana and to the mind. This Vijnanamaya Kosha is made up of sattvic amsha of the 5 subtle elements. In Tattvabodha, we have seen this. The subtle elements, they form the mind. The gross elements, the gross when the totality of the 5 elements, the 5 subtle elements, when you add them together, they all combine to form this mind. The sattvic amsha. What happens to the rajasic amsha? The rajasic portion of the 5 elements, they become the prana. Rajasic amsha is also of the subtle elements only. You can revise your Tattvabodha if you're not clear. So Nishchayatmika buddhi, firm, steady is the nature of Vijnanamaya. Suppose you make a decision, I want to buy a car. That is firm decision. Suppose you're thinking, should I buy a car? Should I not buy a car? Should I postpone it? Should I? No, I will buy it tomorrow. This is called as chanchalatva. That is what is called as manaha. Whenever you have oscillating thoughts, sankalpa, vikalpa. Sankalpa means yes, vikalpa means no. Whenever you have these two disturbing natures of yes and no, that is what is called as manaha. Lina suptau. This intellect dissolves, merges. Where does it merge? It merges in the karana shariram. What is karana shariram? It is the causal seed. All of us have this seed in us. It is from where we all come out every day, experience the world, and again go back to our shell. That shell is the causal body. It is vijnanamayam. It is of the nature of ignorance. The seed sprouts on baking, and then it goes back. Lina is not nashaha, it is dissolution. So the mind remains mind wakes up, it remains for some time, and again dissolves into its unmanifest condition. Vapuhu vyapnyat ankaha agraka. Vapuhu means it pervades the entire body. Anaka agraka. Anaka means nails. It pervades up to the nails, tip of the nails. Tena saha and tena vina. These are two terms which are used. Tena vina means exclusive. Where does the body exist till the handrest of my chair? Inclusive means what? The body includes up to the hand or hair or nails. Tena saha, inclusive. There is no place where vijnanamaya kosha is not present in the waking state. So this vijnanamaya kosha captures the sense of I, and therefore I call myself I am in the waking state. And it gets a life or a sentiency, therefore I feel the breeze. I feel the touch, I can smell, I can hear, I can see. This I, which I say, I hear, I see, is the reflected self, which is the vijnanamaya kosha. In the waking state, the vijnanamaya kosha pervades the whole world completely without any exception. That is why here it's called tena vina. Now what happens in deep sleep? This vijnanamaya kosha gets negated. Negated means what? Falsified. Like the dream gets falsified, the waking intellect gets falsified in the sleep state. But who is there in the sleep state? I, the Sakshi, am there. The sleeper I is there for 8 hours. And then again it wakes up, becomes the waker I. It becomes the dreamer I. The waker I, the dreamer I, and the sleeper I together is called as the ego I, ahamkara. And what is that I which is beyond these three I's of waker, dreamer, and sleeper? That is called as the Sakshi I. That is the real I. That is the consciousness. That is the Atma. So this consciousness knows the passive mind in deep sleep. It knows the active mind in waking, and it knows the semi-active mind in the dream. Can you place that consciousness now with this sentence, a very important sentence? It is this consciousness, this Atma, which knows both the manifest condition and the unmanifest condition. Like in the 10th chapter of the Panchadasi, the light in the theater, it knows when the drama is going on, it knows. When the drama is finished on the stage, the light is still illuminating. The same principle we should remember here. I slept well smritihi. It is a remembrance. In where? It is a remembrance in karana shariram. And who remembers this? Why? How does it remember? It is because of the presence of something which was present and watching this nature of the sleep state. Because of the presence of Sakshi, this mind is able to say, I went to sleep. Anubhava requires the presence of illumining factor. Anytime you want to experience something, you can only experience with the help of a light. That light is the light of consciousness. So in the presence of the Sakshi, this mind is sleeping, therefore I say I am sleeping. Vijnanamaya Kosha has two conditions. Remember, very important factor of the Veda and Vedanta. It has got two conditions, manifest and unmanifest. Manifest condition is called as the waking state and the dream state. Unmanifest condition of the mind or the intellect is called as the sleep state. I am not the Vijnanamaya Kosha. I am the Atma. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad in chapter 4, which is Swayam Jyoti Brahmana, very, very important chapter. One of the most, I think it's probably the most important chapter, because in this fourth chapter of Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, it reveals a Swayam Jyoti. And there it says, in one of these 30th verse, it says, it does not know in the state of sleep, although it is knowing, because the function of knowing can never be lost for the Sakshi. Very important sentence. You see this verse. Sakshi's light is always there. It is an immortal light, always shining. Suppose you say, sun is always there. It is immortal in nature. The earth goes round and round, but look at the sun from its standpoint, it is immortal. I am like the sun, immortal light of consciousness. The waking state and the dream state are states of the mind which pertains to this body. Every body has a mind. The consciousness of the never ceases. And it is the super waker. It has a super waker status because it never ceases. The waker ceases in sleep. For body, mind, and the world, consciousness ceases. Hence, we say they are reflected consciousness. The self is nityaha. Nitya means it's permanently there. Whereas buddhi is what? Buddhi is anitya. It is Lina Suptau. It comes and goes. Next week, we are going to study the next kosha. No, we'll start with this 8th verse, where it says this mind and intellect are one instrument. It's a function of one instrument. When it acts as an agent, it is called as buddhi. Aham. When it acts as an instrument, it is called as manaha. We will see this next week. Very important verse of the third chapter. We'll see it next week. And it's interesting. You see, what happens is in Vidyaranya, he goes into depth of each of these koshas. Therefore, it becomes very interesting. You see, he doesn't just say that it is a dress and that's it. He goes into the depth and says, why this is not me? Why Atma is me? Why the intellect is not me? Why the prana is not me? Why after this will come the anandamaya kosha. Very interesting, anandamaya kosha, how Vidyaranya describes that. Okay, so we'll stop now the study of the third chapter. 8th verse is where we will start next week. There are totally 47 verses. Vidyaranya will go through all these 5 koshas, and then he will discuss the real nature of Atma as Satchidananda in the balance verses. The state of no thoughts. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachade Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vasishyade. If you have any questions, you can ask them. You can unmute yourself and can ask them. Anybody has a question?
I have a question.
Yeah, Chandra, tell me.
You see, there are 5 stages, sheaths we call it. How are they placed? Is one enveloping one another?
The 5 koshas, you mean?
How are they placed?
How are they placed? They are all placed one inside each other. For example, you see the subtler kosha will fill the grosser kosha. For example, the pranamaya will fill the annamaya. The manomaya will fill the pranamaya.
Okay.
So whenever you are aware of your mind and emotions, you will find that you are not aware of the prana or the body. Suppose you are focusing on the breath, then you will not feel the body. Suppose you focus on the intellect, then you will not feel the emotions. You will only think about the karta. I am the karta. I am the doer. Suppose you say, I am the bhokta. I am the enjoyer of the sleep state. Then you will not be the karta. So the subtler you go, each of this is subtler and subtler and subtler. The anandamaya kosha is the subtlest. And it is the closest to the self.
I thought each one is, for instance, the food chain.
Yes.
Is enveloping the prana first.
It's part of the. It's the other way around. The pranamaya is enveloping the body. The mind is enveloping the prana. The intellect is enveloping the mind.
Right.
Then the bliss sheath is enveloping the. It is enveloping the intellect. Okay.
Shekharji,
Yes.
also I don't see Vidyaranya Swami discussing the fact that the 5 sheets are distributed across 3 bodies, the Sthula, the Suksham and Karana, with the Sthula Sharir having the annamaya, the.
Correct. Yes, that will come in the second chapter. In the second, and it will come. He will not describe it here now.
He'll not describe it here.
Yeah, he is not describing it. It will come as the 3. See, what happens is there are 3 prakriyas. There are 3 methodologies of arriving at the pure consciousness. So one methodology is you follow the 3 states of consciousness: waking, dream, and sleep.
Yes.
The second method is, that is in Mandukya Upanishad.
Yes.
The second method is you follow the 5 koshas, the 5 dresses we wear. That is in Taittiriya Upanishad. That is the subject matter of the 3rd chapter. In the 1st chapter of Panchadasi itself, he talks about the 3 bodies: gross body, subtle body. We will take it up later.
Okay, okay.
You know, you can take the annamaya kosha as the gross body.
Yes.
Okay, so that is very clear. The anandamaya, the
Pranamaya,
pranamaya,
Manomaya, Vijnanamaya.
manomaya and vijnanamaya, these 3 are the subtle body.
Suksham. Part of the
Sukshma
Suksham.
sharira.
Yeah.
Anandamaya kosha is the
Karana.
karana sharira.
Karana.
So this is how you split the 5 koshas into 3 bodies.
Again, you are going to discuss the antakarna,
Yeah.
but the antakarna consists of mana, buddhi, ahankara, and chit.
Yes.
So,
See, the word antakaranam is used as an instrument for 4 functions: mana, chitti, buddhi, ahankara. This is what is said in the Tattva Bodha.
yes,
That is the ahankara. That is
Yes.
what is called as antakaranam.
antakarna.
It is an instrument which is inside the body. Bahishkaranam is the legs, hands. These are all the organs of action. We use both the antakaranam and the bahishkaranam to carry on our transactions in day-to-day life.
So the 2 koshas are the antakarna.
Yes,
In a sense.
Correct. That's correct. Anandamaya kosha and the subtle and the anandamaya kosha and the manomaya kosha, vijnanamaya kosha, pranamaya kosha. These 3 are the antakaranams. These 4, in fact, are the antakaranams. It's clear?
Annamaya is the gross. Yeah.
Yeah, annamaya is the gross outside external sheath. The external sheath is made up of skin. The skin separates the outer world and the inner world. The skin.
So here in the Tattva Bodha, we understood, as I understand, buddhi was more
You press like that, nothing.
Yes.
discrimination.
Yes. That's
Sorry.
correct. In the Tattva Bodha, there is a slight modification of the text. Panchadasi.
Yes.
In Panchadasi, Vidyaranya Swami makes a slight change.
Yeah.
Slight change.
So here, vijnanamaya is actually used more as a
Karta.
It's a karta.
Yes, Vijnanamaya is the karta, Anandamaya is the bhokta.
Enjoy.
So
The Anandamaya is the enjoyer, the Vijnanamaya is the doer.
and
So
doer,
the doer and enjoyer is not me. It is only a temporary instrument functioning in the world outside to fulfill the prarabdha karma of the body. This is how I should try to reason out in my own mind. Always remember, I am the light of consciousness. I am the pure. I am not at all this body. I am not the gross body. I am not the prana. Whenever you want to know yourself, but whenever you're transacting in the world, you be the body and transact. Don't try to confuse in your transactions. In the transactions, be the gross body, understand all your roles, understand your relationships, and interact. Don't bring consciousness in your day-to-day transactions. When you want to know who I am, because you have studied the Bhagavad Gita, you have studied the Panchadasi, you want to know the real truth of what is all happening in the world. If you want to know the real truth, at that time you bring all this knowledge into place. A jnani will be exactly like an ajnani in the world. Jnani and ajnani, if you put them both in the world, they will act exactly the same. But the knowledge makes it different. For the jnani, in his mind, he will say all this is a passing phase. It is not the real truth which I know. The truth I know is Aham Brahma Asmi.
Shekharji, I was reading this somewhere, and I think it just explains what you're saying. It says the gold is not in the ornament, but rather the ornament is in the gold.
Yes.
In the similar way, we tend to say that I am in this body.
Correct.
As against saying that the body is in me.
Yes, you're right. Correct.
Yeah.
See, whenever
So
we say
similarly, the sheath is not in the
consciousness is
Atma.
different than the body.
Yeah. The Atma is not in the sheath.
Yes.
But the sheath is in the Atma.
Yes, you're
I
right.
think that's what is being tried to explain.
The ornament is in the gold.
Yeah.
Gold is not in the ornament. Gold is there in everywhere. It can be, need not be in the ornament also. Consciousness can be in the body. It need not be in the body. As in the sleep state, I am pure consciousness. The body and the body mind are sleeping at that time. I am in what nature do I exist in the sleep state? I exist as the pure self. Okay. Anybody else has any question? Yeah, Shama, go ahead.
Shekharji.
Yeah, tell me.
This Taittiriya Upanishad, the first verse, Satyam Jnanam Anantam. So Anantam is basically equivalent to Ananda. So in other words, Satyam Jnanam Anantam is the same as saying Satchit Ananda.
Yes.
Yeah, because the moment the knowledge is divisionless, unlimited.
Yes.
You automatically are transposed into the state of Ananda or bliss.
Yes, you're right. Sat is the same as Chit, and Chit is the same as Ananda.
Correct. Whilst you were saying that the Jnani will more or less look like the same in the transactional purposes like the Ajnani.
Yeah.
But in terms of how he will be affected or not affected will be entirely different, would it not?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
He will not be affected by the world at all.
And what I was trying to sort of recently read, and really like most of us, the crazy thing is, even for those of us who think, at least I thought, that I've always prided myself in thinking that, oh, I can think, I can know, However, very recently, I realized that my so-called thinking is a much more of a compulsive, habituated, addictive way of thinking.
Yes.
It's not pure thought.
Yes, you're right.
I've recently discovered. So what I have realized that what I have understood as thinking is so clouded by my personal and cultural conditioning. For example, the same knowledge which two different people will be experiencing within the same situation.
Yes.
I can see how, including, for example, my own son, I will say, just because he's born and brought up here in London, the way he sees the same thing and the way I see the same thing is so very different. And I realize it is not because of the thought alone, but somewhere our emotions are differently configured.
Yes.
So our so-called thinking is so largely emotional.
Yes.
Yeah.
We are all wired differently.
But what I'm saying is what we can confuse as thinking is really largely, if we see our intensity of thinking, it doesn't go past our emotions.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
which
correct.
Which is what I find it really surprising.
Yes.
Very, very surprising that as to how, in other words, even the common words like emotions, for example, peace, love, and joy is definitely beyond the mind. It cannot be part of our normal transactional emotions. Although we say, oh, I'm experiencing joy I'm experiencing, love, it is beyond the mind. It can be only part of our, when we are able to have that pure glimpse of pure consciousness, that for a short while we can actually experience that peace, love, and joy. It is
Yes.
not normal human emotions.
Yes.
So would I be correct in assuming?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You see, thoughts are also in three forms: sattvic thought, rajasic thought, tamasic thought. So whenever you are, there are three different levels of thoughts. So
the more
sattvic
sattvic,
thoughts, the joy and the compassion and the bliss, happiness, all are on the sattvic platform. Whereas in the tamasic is all lethargy, I feel tired, I feel this thing. All emotions will come under rajasic because it's turbulent. Suddenly I'm angry, suddenly I'm, the emotions are all in the rajasic platform.
So in this spiritual journey, as we are evolving, all
Yes.
these actually fall off.
Yes, they all merge into one blissful consciousness. That is why the more you go from tamasic to rajasic, from rajasic, you have to drop all your emotions, go into the sattvic state. In the sattvic state, you have to drop yourself and go beyond the sattvic state to the real Atma.
So all these kind of so-called teaching, the forget this and forgive this and appreciation, while it's in a normal course, these are very, people are taught to follow these virtues. However, if you are, the closer you're in the sattvic and the purified form, you don't even think, because you are that love, you are that.
Yes, ultimately everything is born from that substratum. You see, the whole world, you may not realize this because our intellect doesn't have the power to understand Atma in its full significance. Our intellect are all limited. The power in the intellect is very limited. It cannot appreciate what the scriptures are telling me about Atma. It is the limitation of our intellect which is a problem, not the limitation of the reality. Reality is the whole world is rising from one consciousness, existing in that consciousness, and is resolving into that consciousness. Mayeva sakalam jatam mayi sarvam pratishtitam, Kaivalya Upanishad. That is the truth. But the intellect has limitations. A jnani knows the limitations of the buddhi. And he says, I can only go up to this stage. Beyond this, I take the words of the scriptures and I follow it. That's all. When it comes, suppose you say, Aham Brahma Asmi. Now, how do I accept this? I accept it because the scriptures tell me I am that pure self. I am the Sat Chit Atma. In Panchadasi, in second chapter, there's a very beautiful debate which will come, where there is a debate going on between a Nayayika, a person who follows Nyaya, the school of inference, and the person who is Advaitin. Second chapter of the Panchadasi, 46, 44, 45, 46 verses, 3 verses, beautiful verses. There, Vidyaranya Swamiji takes the debate between inference and Advaitin. And there he says, the Nayayika says that for a logician, Nayayika is a logician who follows Tarka. For him, reasoning is most important. He says, Akasha, the space, is Sat. It is existent. Akasha, for a logician, Nayayika theory, he says, that Akasha, the space, is same like existence. So he argues with Advaitin, and he says that your Satchit Atma, Satchit, which you are talking about, is not the ultimate reality. Akasha, in which the whole world is coming and going, is the reality. Because and then the Advaitin asks him, how do you know that Akasha exists, space exists? He says, I see it, therefore it exists. But then Advaitin goes and tells him, if you see something, it is not real, it is inert. Anything seen is inert. Now, basically, what I'm trying to tell you is that Sat is something cannot be seen. Chit cannot be seen. Consciousness cannot be seen, but it can be known as oneself. So that is how you have to drop your mind and claim consciousness. This is a very important rule to follow, especially when you want to get rid of your mind and then claim the consciousness. Follow this rule. The rule is, I am the consciousness, full stop. I am the pure existence, full stop. That's it. Just say that and then abide in it. Do not objectify. Do not try to objectify the Sat. Do not try to bring it in front of your mind as an object of awareness. Then you will make it as an object and it will become perishable. The moment you become an object, it becomes jadam. Anything which is seen is jadam. It is nashwaram, it is perishable, and it is mithya. This is the rule. Anything seen is anityam, it is perishable, it is inert, and it is asat, it is mithya. It is a different category of only an appearance. But what exists all the time is this pure self. That I is a changeless phenomena. This is the easiest and the direct method of knowing the real self.
Yep.
I am the pure self. Again and again repeated, because repetition of this sentence, I am the pure self, will make that reality something which exists for you. See, the reality exists. But then the moment your intellect says, Aham Brahmasmi, I am that pure consciousness, let that repetition go on. A day will come when this thought will never leave you.
Yeah.
It will never leave you. You will always remain. It's like the tambura, you know.
But what is fascinating is this eternal fight which is happening between the limited intellect, which is saying,
Yes.
this is this, this is this. And there is the other part of it, which is your real self, which is
Yes.
really wants to go far, far beyond. It doesn't like this caged existence.
Yes.
And the fundamental thing through the Vedanta studies, the way you're teaching, which I'm getting to get a feel of it, that what is troublesome is the limitedness, you know, the
Yes.
intellect, because I can't understand everything. So it is so limited, and that is very troublesome. And therefore it tells me that the mind itself is not real.
Yes. You
Although
see,
I like to
it is
identify.
avidya. Mind is avidya. Mind is ignorance.
Yeah.
Mind is, yes.
Yeah. For so many years of one's life, you have related to the mind as being you.
Yes.
And now to actually embrace it, that this is not me, this in itself, because the mind is perceiving things only in the space, time, and causation element.
Absolutely, yes.
And anything which is in time is a very troublesome thing, because you are continuously seeing the change. The time means change, isn't it?
Yes,
The
yes.
way, if you cut that mind off, therefore, there is no time.
That's correct.
isn't it?
Yes,
So
and
even
you can do it only with the help of the words of the scriptures.
correct.
You
correct.
cannot use it, you cannot cut off time without the scriptures.
Yeah. So far, what I have come to understand, what has been troubling me in terms of emotions, is this element of time and the
Yes,
space.
yes.
You know, it divides, and I'm troubled. So you have to just literally, and I'm just trying to find out as to how best can one, apart from scriptural study, probably meditation will be the second thing.
Yes, it is.
Intensifying meditation, where
Yes.
you're allowing yourself to access that infinite source,
Correct.
isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
you're right. In Vichara Sagara, the author there says, repeated shravanam of the scriptures will also help you in your nididhyasanam
Okay.
and also will help you in your mananam.
Okay.
And in that the author clearly says, repeatedly listen to the scriptures, repeatedly. Repeatedly, let the scriptures come to you again and again, again and again. Listen more. And that listening will lead you to mananam and nididhyasana and final liberation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Venkatesh, you say something?
Yeah. No, I just want to touch like what Shama was saying is very interesting, because all these emotions and all, they're very, very difficult to control. Most of the time, they just conquer, and that is how the life goes on. So it is very important that what can change that degree of emotions. Most of the time, what happens is whenever those emotions they play, that clouds the intellect. Your awareness is totally gone. So I was attending one of the session, conflicting resolutions and during the situations and all. What they say is whenever certain emotions which are associated with the rajasic, like anger. So what is the remedy? What they say is whenever you get an anger, just have a pause. Pause for few minutes, for few seconds. So what is happening is what our scriptures are saying. That's what I suddenly it struck to me. You are changing from rajasic to sattvic state. When you are in a silence, you are in a sattvic state. In rajasic, what happens? Because of emotions, when you are with your anger, you react and you never use your intellect. So that is causing one into the trouble. So you are carried away with that. So by just taking a pause, so then you think over, and that is how we bring awareness into the scenario. So it's a very simple, it appears, but we just try to analyze. So most of the times, whenever these emotions come, which are because of the situation, surrounding, environment, and cultural and individual, how do they respond to that situation, that makes a difference. So from reaction, if we can stop for a while, and if we just use our intellect with awareness or with act, that can make a big difference. So like in the present verse, which I was just Shekharji was explaining, Sat and Chit actually. Sat does not exist with Chit, Chit does not exist with Sat. That is such a big revelation. If we really think for a while, when we just say Sat does not exist with Chit, that means whenever something exists, if there is no Chit, it is an object, like a table or a chair or anything. So suddenly I realized, what happens actually? Simple way, if we just think, a table which exists, but it does not have any Chit actually, that life force is not there. So it is an inert.
It is mithya.
It is a mithya.
It is asat, that's it.
It is asat.
Yes.
So the way I could suddenly feel that is something like, wow, it's so simple. He has put how Sat and Chit together. It's very difficult. Chit we can understand. Yes, our consciousness, vagara, and all. But Sat without Chit, when you are just explaining, I suddenly realized, oh, it does not mean anything actually.
That's correct. This is what I learned in the second chapter of the Panchadasi. Sat and Chit are the same. One side, one coin. They are not two sides of the coin.
They are the same side of the coin.
Same side of the coin.
Yes.
And so Sat without Chit is meaningless.
Meaningless.
Chit without Sat is also meaningless.
Meaningless.
Because Chit cannot exist without Sat. It becomes non-existent.
It's an object.
You see, it becomes non-existent like the flowers in the sky, you know?
Yeah.
Chit without Sat. Consciousness without the Sat existence becomes like the flowers in the sky. And the Sat without the Chit is like the rope snake.
Oops. Yeah.
It becomes mithya.
Very interesting. Yeah.
Mr. Shaker,
Yes, tell me, Jacqueline.
just recently, I just want, this is not correct, but I just want to say something. In fact, we know that we are pure consciousness, which is blissful, eternal, existent, whenever we are, wherever we are. It can be 7 billion of us. But then the mind, okay, which we are not the mind. As soon as we identify as mind, we are the body. But incidentally, the mind is so powerful, okay? He can just squash us or, you know, even though we know that we are consciousness, and it can just make us angry and make us emotional, worried. That is, you know, the mind. So what I want to say is, somehow the mind, what do you call that? It's not the power is so strong that conquer all of us. That's what I want to say.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely right. That power is called as the Maya power. It is called as the power of that pure Satchidananda, you know?
Yeah, but we are not there, but it conquers us, you know.
Yes, it conquers us, and that is why it is, see, that is why they say that the whole world is mithya. Mithya means it is just an appearance, exactly like a dream.
Yeah, but then we got agitated because
Yes.
it conquered us. We got agitated. We are not supposed to.
Correct. You see, that is what you should realize, that whenever I become angry, whenever I become emotional, it is the nature of the body which is acting. It is and why do I experience this? I experience this because it is not I, the consciousness, which is experiencing. It is the body which is experiencing its prarabdha karma. It is body which has to come into this life. It is a cosmic law. The entire waking world is a cosmic law. It is a law which is to do with the appearance of the body and the disappearance of the body. You see, the body itself disappears in the sleep state, right? Do I make any effort? I don't make any effort.
Yeah, but the mind just overshadow everything, you know. Even overshadow our consciousness. That is the irony or contradicting that I think right now. I say, why, you know?
Yes. All of us experience the same as what you are experiencing.
Shekharji,
Yeah, tell me.
can I try and sort of not explain, but try and understand what Jacqueline is saying?
Yeah.
And what we are learning is we are trying to bring the correlation between the shariram, the koshas, and the antarkarna, and to understand that they're all jadam, and the Atma and consciousness, they appear in Atma and consciousness. That's the first proposition.
Yes.
The second part is that our strong identification is nothing else but adhyasa. Adhyasa, my attachment to the body, my attachment to the indriyas, my attachment to the ego, all are such strong adhyasas that I forget my true nature.
Yes.
So that's the other part that we are trying to understand.
Correct. So from morning waking up, the adhyasa starts.
Yes. So if you understand the correlation between the shariram, koshas, the antarkarna, and the adhyasa, then we sort of have understood, as what you said, that the moment I get up.
Yes, Vedanta, correct. You understood Vedanta the moment you understand adhyasa and the 5 koshas.
The koshas are part of the gunas.
Yes.
Gunas give rise to shariram. Shariram has the koshas.
Correct.
And this gives rise to this whole equipment called the mind, body, etc. that
Yes.
experiences this world.
Yes.
Mind being the instrument.
That's right.
And mind is a bundle of thoughts giving rise to emotion, thoughts, feeling, and images.
Yes.
Which is causing the adhyasa.
Yes.
The strong identification with I, me,
Yes.
mine.
Yes. Without the I, tell me, where are all your emotions? Not there.
Not there. Absolutely right. That's the fundamental.
Yes. That is why Ramana Maharishi keeps on asking, who is that I? Without
Yes.
whom there is
We
no
go back to that.
emotions.
Yes.
We go back to the root.
Ramana Maharishi gives us a direct path. Find out who is that I, and then you know who you are.
Yeah.
Who am I?
Yes.
In the meantime, while we are continuing in our spiritual journey, what I have just discovered that what comes as a very quick fix treatment is Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now, you know. So
Yes.
in fact, rather than dismissing your emotions, you actually stay with it.
Yeah.
Just stay with it. There's nothing wrong. Don't try and give causes and analysis and all of that. Don't get caught into it. See that where it's coming from. Most of the time it is coming from past memories, all those ideas which you've held so far. The other bit is the anxiety about the anticipation, what you're expecting. When the two are clashing, then the emotions, of course, are completely uncontrolled. And so I do like his, you know, which really, in order to just rescue yourself for the short, quick while, just staying with that, with the now part of it, the power of now, as he calls it.
Yeah.
It's
a
quite
mind.
useful.
It's a mind which causes the past and the future.
All coming at a.
It's always now and now and now. There is no past. There is no future. It's always now.
But the mind has this proclivity
Yes,
of going in the
yes.
past and also the future.
That's
Yeah.
correct. The mind moves, and the mind creates the past. The mind creates the future.
And crazily enough, it never is happy to stay in the present.
Yes.
This is what I have discovered, and I find that so mad, so mad. If I'm listening, I'm in your class, why can't I pay all my attention there? Why am I thinking, what did I learn before? What am I going to learn in future? I can't just stay with that. It's crazy, you know. But anyway, it's great, you know, for all of us to be learning, and you know, and Shekharji, you're doing such an incredible job. Thank you.
Thank you, Shama. Can we close today now? It's quite time.
Wait, I want to say something.
Tell me.
In fact, Shama or Mr. Shekhar, in fact, we are supposed to be in the now all the time. But, but because we are human beings, then we say, when am I supposed to get the food in? Then if we are not doing anything, we are saying that, are we successful or are we not successful? That's the issue, you know, as a human being. I mean, yes. I can be very happy that I am in the now. But when I was younger, I said, goodness, I have to have this degree, I have to have that degree, I have to study. If not, then who am I, you know? So it is that is a contradicting. I mean, to me, I find that it's contradicting. I should be now all the time, but then you say, hey, what is it? So anyway, that's what
we should all be happy we are here.
Yeah, yes. Exactly. You know, but then if you are a human being, you say, huh? I mean, just like you, how come you become a doctor? You know, if that time you never think about become a doctor, you're all on the now, and then what happened? You know what I'm saying? That is how I think myself in that aspect. Obviously, by learning scripture, I say, yes, I always in my now. Okay, just a statement, not okay. Anything. Just
medicine study is much simpler than this, much simpler.
Thank you.
Can we, actually I wanted to ask since long, but the verse you mentioned from the Brihanda Aranakya
Yeah,
Upanishad.
Upanishad, yes.
I did not quite understand it very well. So
Yeah.
maybe next class, if you little bit explain it more.
Okay, I will make an attempt again next week, or I can talk to you separately on this.
Okay, sure. Because I understand today is quite late now. So
Yeah, I will talk to you on this separately
sure.
on the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad.
Okay.
It's a mantra which is a little bit deep mantra. It is not a simple mantra. It is it's a slightly deeper meaning in it. I will talk to you on this, Preeti.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Good night.
Night.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shekharji. Good night.
Thank you, Uma. Thank you.